So their belief was known, at least in the network of believers, that Paul had heard about this, and was also known, and this is an area we struggle with, is their love for each other. And we have a lot of indifference, tolerance, whatever negative other things towards each other. Go back to 1 Corinthians 13, your good old love chapter, okay? And know that, he talks about how love forgives all, covers all. See, but a lot of you guys don't have that kind of love because it doesn't function that way in you. It doesn't cover anything, doesn't forgive anything, okay? Is impatient. I mean, we could take Colossians, reverse it. 1 Corinthians and reverse it, and that's probably what a lot of you are doing. People get mad at me because I allow a lot of things to play out. You think I'm just allowing it. I allow things to play out. I give people enough rope to hang themselves, so to speak. I let it play out to see how it really plays. I ask Elder, he'll tell you. Because a lot of things you think that I'm ignoring, he'll tell you I'm fully aware of them. But I'm letting it play out for whatever reason. We had a gentleman that was with the congregation or with this ministry for a very small window of time that we had, even some of the leaders were like really mad at me for letting him be a part of the ministry or letting him be, participate, knowing full well this guy had an issue and an agenda and whatever he was trying to do. And you know what? I used him like the Father uses Hasatan. In other words, he was there to expose those that needed to be exposed that he could take with him. Some of the nonsense that you guys think is such nonsense that I seem to allow here, it's being allowed partially so that those of you that need to go. Because you don't have the love. You don't have the patience. That's just the first aspect of the love. We didn't even keep going. You see a husband, wife, whatever, you have an issue. Or you're married and your spouse doesn't act the way you think that spouse should act, you have an issue. You might want to get objective, counsel to make sure that you're actually seeing it correctly. Because if you're in your emotions, you're not probably seeing it correctly. Because the emotions are a very reality skewing filter. Let's call it that, right? Your emotions can be a very strong, powerful reality skewing. In other words, taking reality and it now no longer looks exactly like it should. It still looks like reality to you, but it is skewed. It's off. It's not correct. I'm saying all of this because Paul started off with the Colossians saying, your true brothers favor to you. He says, I give thanks to you because I have heard of your belief and your love for all, not some, all the set apart ones. You have enough people in a congregation, pretty much any issue you can think of is in the congregation. You've got people in every big enough congregation who have issues with anger, lust of the flesh, alcohol, drugs, whatever you want to put, gambling, pick anything, depression, bipolar, whatever. You've got it in there somewhere. Anxiety, pride, ego, whatever, okay? You pick any negative attribute that you could have, any negative behavior. You get a big enough group, it's all in there. Don't you know that? So why you get upset when you notice and discover one of them or some of them? Well, these people over here, they're doing this thing that I think is wrong. Keywords, I think is wrong. They're doing this on Shabbat. Okay, that verse doesn't exist as to what the things you guys get all upset about, I can't find in here. Is it really Shabbat worthy? Probably not. Is it a major issue for you to be yakking your mouth about and running your jaw about? No. But I don't like it. Good. Deal with that. We're too locked into a very westernized, Christianized idea that outside intervention is the answer to everything. Can you understand that? You know what the good news is? Is that you can do most of this yourself. That's the good news. That he has empowered you with and given you tools to handle most of this yourself. When I say most of this, I mean the stuff that we do in the below. You have not only the abilities, but you also have access to the guidance to use those abilities properly to be successful in all your interpersonal and other things you do in the below, whether it's career, relationships, or anything, health, all of the stuff is available. You still have this addiction to the concept. You're addicted to an idea that the solution's gonna come from outside. This may hurt to hear, but nobody's coming to rescue you. And then I noticed very quickly, she was trying to ask me about, well, where do you stand on this doctrine? Where do you stand on this position? Where do you stand? Where do you stand? Where do you stand? And I stopped her. I know you find that shocking. I interrupted her and stopped her in the middle of what she was doing. And I said, excuse me, let me just say something. I said, look, it seems to me you're trying to find out and figure out if I line up with you. And I said, look, if that's your criteria for, because I asked her why she was asking all the questions first. She said, because I'm trying to figure out whether or not I want to come here if you're going to be the rabbi. So I want to figure out where you stand. I said, well, if that's your criteria, you know what, I tell you, that leads one place. And I said, please don't get offended. Of course, she ended up being offended. I said, please don't be offended, but that ends up alone in your living room. Because you're not going to find anybody standing in front of a microphone that agrees with you. Not because your thoughts are so weird, but because you're you. And the person at the microphone is them. And you're not going to automatically right away agree with everything they say. And so I said, if you're measuring your beliefs and my belief to see if they line up to come here, then your measuring stick is wrong. Because we have a righteous judge that's going to judge according to what actually is the deal. Who knows why you struggled, knows why you were treated the way you were by whoever caused you to have your traumas and your problems, knows the whole story. The only judge you'll ever sit in front of that actually knows the whole story. But yet you're judging people and you don't have any of the story, barely. I mean, you have a little piece of it and you think you have all of it, but you don't. You know, somebody runs into you at the wrong moment, they're going through a real whatever hard time and they bite your head off for whatever reason and you didn't deserve it and you get all upset and you have no idea where they're coming from. That doesn't excuse their behavior, but what about figuring out, oh my gosh, maybe they're just having a bad day. Maybe they had a string of bad things just happen in a row and they're just not in their right head. Did you ever make that mistake and bite someone's head off, so to speak, and blast somebody because you were not in the right head? That you never would have treated them that way and you felt ashamed later and said, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, but you were just in a bad place. And then they said just the wrong thing at the wrong moment and you blew up. You know, some of you are like, well, why do you always talk about personal development? Because that's everything we're supposed to be doing in this life is personally developing into Him. I don't know how else to put it. Your whole life is about personal development. I don't know any other way to describe the expectation that you are to transform into Him. How do you do that? By personally developing His characteristics. So if you don't understand your personality and your whatever psycho-emotional issues are and all these other things that handicap you in your transformation, how are you going to transform? You know, I talk a lot about observing, learning, and adjusting, right? Are you paying attention to you? Are you noticing when you do something and it doesn't seem to work well with people? And then you start to maybe think, why? But when you do other things, it works really well with people. Are you paying any attention so you can learn about you? Can you express, as he's saying here, this love as intended? That's the spirit of the law. The spirit of something is the fullness of how it was intended to be expressed or played out or applied. You know, when looking at law in terms of like civil law, they want to see what was the intent of how this law be applied into what situations and what things, right? That's the spirit of it. So he's saying here, who also declared to us your love, this Epaphras declared your love, that you were doing these things in the fullness as it was intended, in the spirit. Not in some out-of-body something. I don't know. Otherwise, what is it talking about? How are you expressing? He declared to us your love in the spirit. So was he doing it like out of body going to communicate? And so he's communicating this love? Or was it the love you were doing? What is it talking about? I think it's saying that he was communicating to Paul, hey, these people are making an effort to do this as intended. All of this is for him. Now, it's his good pleasure to give to you. Just like the Father gave to the Son can give to you. But it's still for him. And the only reason it's for you is because he wants it to be for you. And no other reason. So let's stop thinking somehow this is about us. It's not about you. It's about him. Everything's about him. Now, he wants you to have, and he wants you to be the independent, amazingly individual, whatever that you are, right? All the flavors, differences that you bring to everything. But he needs you to trust him and obey in trust, trusting that that will bring all the good stuff that you desire. Look, he's the manufacturer. He understands the intention of how this thing that he made is supposed to function. What's the ideal way of functioning? If you went to the manufacturer of anything that you would buy, they would have clear understanding of what's the best way to treat, handle, work, whatever it is you bought. Now, sometimes they put that all into an owner's manual. Ta-da, we got one.